with Apple, you have Foxconn, you have Wistron, and you have Pegatron.
Yes.
If you want to manufacture for Apple, you need an on. You understand?
Yeah.
You need to have an on in there. It makes you seem very serious, very large, technologically advanced.
Uh-huh.
You had to sound sort of like a Transformer. Megatron. Mm-hmm. I guess he's not a Transformer. He's a Decepticon. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, Transformers is
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Term.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
You know.
I just threw a sim tool because I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Wistron, one of the Trons, one of the many Trons, ONs, is reportedly hiring up to 10,000 extra staff to man its iPhone plant in India, claims a news report, as Apple's suppliers continue to double down outside of China.
Whoa.
We talk about it every day because things are happening and things are changing. We talk about it every day. And it's a lot of movement. It's a lot of shifting. Wistron, the same company, I believe, that we talked about yesterday, sold a portion of their manufacturing to a Chinese company, Luxshare. Things are moving and grooving. They're moving around. I don't know what's going on. We can barely keep tabs on it. I don't know where your next iPhone's going to come from. I really don't. It probably depends on where you're located in the world and which model you buy. This particular plant in Narasapura, I definitely said that. I definitely said it wrong. Is going to hire 70% of those 10,000 jobs. They're going to hire locally. Well, so they're going to employ the local people. This is always great news for the locals. You go in there, you get yourself a position at a really high-profile manufacturer. Now, of course, it's not going to say Apple and on the signage. It's going to say Wistron, but as far as you're concerned, you're working on those Apple products. So it's,
Can they say technically they're working for Apple?
If they want to say that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean,
you slap the Apple logo on the PCB. That's what they work on in this particular plant.
You go.
They slap the logo on. So this place is 40 miles outside Bengaluru, which I've been to. Couldn't believe how tropical. It was hot.
Yeah?
Oh, it was hot down there. And that's actually the hub. The tech hub of India is kind of down there. What a time I had in India. I don't need to tell you.
I wasn't there, but I've heard good things.
Oh, you weren't there. That's right.
Yeah.
So I do need to tell you.
Yeah.
I went to Goa. I was on the beach. I had a lobster. It's unbelievable.
A lot of snacks.
I was snacking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I tasted all the local snacks and the local dishes. I went to the restaurants. I had the seafood. I mean, I did it.
Good times.
I did it, Will.
Sounds great.
Next time I go back, I'm going to visit this plant over here, Wistron. I'm going to see what's going on. Got to get to the bottom of it because I'm genuinely curious how this whole thing maps out in the future. There's been all kinds of incentives, all kinds of reasons for companies to double down. The aim here is accommodating the export of $5 billion worth of devices. That's a big number. That's the aim, claimed by an unnamed Apple supplier planning to move an even more significant amount of production operations to India. We're talking about Wistron, Pegatron, Foxconn, and of course Samsung, who we talked about in the past, making big moves, barely in China anymore, not in China anymore, and moving to all these places, including India, because of the various incentives that exist there. This is just another example of the power of the local incentives, right? And the capability of that public to take on some of these jobs that previously, previously we assumed it had to take place in China. Let's be honest here. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at Vietnam, Cambodia, all these other ones that I mentioned, and it appears that's no longer the case. That this can happen elsewhere. Now, I don't know which devices these PCBs are for. There is a conversation around whether or not these flagship devices and the export device. Those are the two big stories. These PCBs coming from this plant, are they going to be destined for flagship models or lower end models, cheaper models? Because once you cross that threshold, then you're you're in the big business. You're in the full on, full scale business, which for you might be comfortable. For a lot of others, is intimidating to be in the big business. So anyways, yes, exciting times for that particular region, no doubt about it. Speaking of Apple, we have some news here on that upcoming A14X Bionic chip, which according to some degree of speculation, actually this thing started, fellow YouTuber Luke Miani, he posted this on Twitter about the potential performance gains for the A14X Bionic chip, that of course one of Apple's own pieces of silicon that will likely be in the next iPad Pro model. And it's manufactured by TSMC, the Taiwanese manufacturer, doing all those hot chips, cool chips, all the chips.
Potato chips?
Yeah, potato chip. Huh. They got those, maybe even Doritos, which is a corn-based chip, if you didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What do you go for if you're going to have a chip?
Kettle
yeah.
chip.
We talked about this.
Yes.
I'm in the same boat. I actually original as well. It could be, there's so many variants that I would be fine with.
Do you go for Miss Vicky's?
I mean, Miss Vicky's is a classic since I'm a child.
Yeah.
But it could be, what's the other one? Kettle. It says kettle right on it.
Yeah.
It says, oh, that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean,
see, what's confusing about that one is because kettle's the style.
Yes.
It's got a little more crunch to it. It's a bit of a thicker chip. Kettle brand, it's a whole brand, but it's also a style, so you got to keep it together here. Yeah, Kettle brand, you got to say brand. Kettle brand potato chips. You know what? Some of those flavors. Backyard barbecue. Who's kidding who? Anyway, apparently this A14X is going to be nearly on par with an 8-core Intel Core i9 9880H, which if you were a guy that was doing some gaming or something like this, you might pick a chip like that for a gaming laptop or something like this.
Yes.
You might say, that chip will do me just fine, and I want some graphics, and I'm ready to go. I'm going to go play.
Not Fortnite, though.
You're not going to play Fortnite. You're going to play the next Far Cry is what you're going to play. You want to use some of those RTX, some of that RTX tech.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, you want to enable some of that stuff.
Some ray tracing.
You need some tracing. You need the filters, and you need the ultra settings, and, you know.
Yeah.
People don't say that anymore. There's no game now where people can just say, like in the old days, can it run X? Like it was the Crisis meme forever. Yes. But now what do you even say? Can it run, I don't know, Flight Simulator? Man, I just brought that up because, Will, you're so into the Flight Simulator lately. Oh, yeah. It's getting 5-star reviews, and it looks incredible, the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. So anyways, this is not a fact. That's a very fast chip, the i9 9880. This is not a fact. This is speculation, and it's based on leaked / suspected information about the A14 and the average performance gains from previous X version chips. And he's put it out in a whole nice little graph here, which graphs, they always do amazing. You put a graph in a tweet, it gets, I don't know, 3 times the interaction.
Everyone's like, oh, yeah.
It's a graph. I need to click on that.
Great.
So the A14X obviously shows up way higher than the current generation A14 regular, and gives you kind of a little taste of what to expect. Of course, Apple increasingly, they want you to use this iPad for everything. They want you to edit videos on this iPad. They want you to play games on this iPad. So they got to give you the power in the iPad. But then beyond that, they start putting the A-series stuff into their laptops, move away from Intel. So it's not unfathomable that they would be pushing some pretty serious performance numbers considering that ambition. And so your next gaming device, Will, is going to be an iPad.
I mean, that could be a reality. That could be a dream. Yeah.
Except
dream reality.
Easy there.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Could be a dream reality. I don't know if those two things are the same.
And then it becomes reality.
Oh, you're dreaming right now, then it's a reality.
Yeah.
But you can't get your Unreal Engine on there, as we're going to,
That's true, yeah.
So we're not just talking about Fortnite. That's the funny thing about the Fortnite story is you look up the number of games built on the Unreal Engine. It's like, and granted, they could maybe switch to some other engine or something, but it would be an absolute nightmare for a number of titles if that thing goes through. So you can have all the horsepower in the world, but you got to play Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
In Apple's futuristic walled garden, potentially. But who knows? If these chips are fast enough, if these devices are nice enough, you got a MacBook sitting right there. You just can't wait to get an A series in there.
Can't wait.
You're chopping up clips and thumbs and whatever else. Apple renames Beats One to Apple Music One and launches 2 more live radio stations. Now, you may be looking at this and saying to yourself, what's the big deal? Maybe that's what you're saying. Well, go ahead, say it. What's the big deal? Hey, Lou, what's the big deal? Well, it's actually not a
big deal.
What's that?
What is a big deal?
Oh, there you go. Okay. That's what I was hoping for. Well, it's really not a big deal. It's just a name, isn't it? But once you start speculating, as you would do if you ran a show like we do, you would speculate to Timbuktu till the cows come home. That statement right there is actually that's foreshadowing for a story that's coming up later.
Oh.
Later in the show.
Okay.
So stick around until the cows come home.
I'm tuned in.
You're tuned in or you're tuned up?
Yeah. Both.
Both.
And neither.
And that's right. Anyway, Apple renames Beats One to Apple Music One. Beats, a brand that Apple paid, what was it, $1 billion for, brought the headphones under the umbrella, the Apple umbrella. It was cozy. It was dry and cozy, away from the storm of the consumer electronics landscape. Come with us. We're Apple. Here's a check for Dre and who's the other guy? Jimmy
Iovine.
Jimmy Iovine. Here's a little check. Come under the umbrella. Well, a little time passes. Yeah, there's Beats products, but then a little thing happens. A little thing called AirPods happens. What do they do? And all of a sudden, you see these little toothbrush things showing up in everybody's ears. Wildly popular. Most popular product of our time. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but that thing is everywhere, man. It was very disruptive, and a lot of other products modeled themselves after this product. That's the AirPods Pro that came out shortly after, and they're rumored to be working on an AirPods over-ear studio product. You might be having a little too much success there, where that brand that you brought in, that Beats thing, you're wondering, why am I marketing this thing? What am I doing with this thing? Who is it for anymore? When I've got all these other competing products with the Apple brand that help push the equity of that particular brand forward. So this is a small name change to a radio station, but it could be indicative of a greater change that might be taking place from for hardware going forward. I don't know this for a fact. I said it was speculation. I mean, that's what we're here for. I got to guess. I got to take a shot at it. And that shot, my shot that I'm taking here is why. Yeah, I'm saying, why are you putting all this energy into the Beats brand? Any energy into the Beats brand when customers have obviously selected an Apple product in the headphone space, a couple of Apple products at this point, and they seem okay with it. Now you go do the over-ear, and it seems weird to put Beats to bed, but I'm going to go ahead and call it. The writing's on the wall. It may hang around, but it's never going to be what it was. There was a point in time you saw that beef flying everywhere. You couldn't walk down the street. Beats headphones hit you square in the face. You say, where do these come from? Who do these belong to? All of a sudden, they're on your head. You don't know how they got there.
Like what?
All of a sudden, you're driving down the road and Dr. Dre gives you a thumbs up. You're like, how did he get here? I'm in Canada. What's going on?
In my car.
Yeah.
Where do you come from?
All of a sudden, you turn around, your back seat, it's Dr. Dre, thumbs up.
Yeah.
You say, I had the alarm set.
Alarm set? What?
The alarm on the car was set. How did he get in?
Oh, yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
They did the guerrilla marketing stuff at the Olympics. I remember it was so interesting. I think it was Panasonic who got messed up because Panasonic bought the official audio sponsor of the Olympics, and they provided Panasonic headphones to people, to athletes, so that on the broadcast, they would have these free Panasonic headphones, which were in the hotel room when they arrived, all the high-profile athletes. Well, the high-profile athletes, they said, oh yeah, by the way, I want to wear the Beats product. And the people at Beats knew this because some of their athletes that they already had deals with had been doing so, wearing them on the broadcast. They see a little boost. So what does Beats do? They do the gorilla style. They go door to door inside the Olympic Village. They drop a pair of Beats in front of everybody's door and they say, you don't have to use it, but you might not mind because it's a fashionable headphone that you're going to feel cool wearing.
Yeah, and they're free.
And they're just at your door. So you do what you want to do. And then they got in trouble for it. And Panasonic said, hey, man, paid money for this thing. So then the Olympic Committee had to come out and say, like, we can't be doing all this.
Yeah.
We got rules here. Anyway, Beats days, it may be behind us to a certain degree as we move towards in this direction. It's one of those brands that Apple could kill or diminish. They'll probably let it hang around because there is some history there. Maybe they go the fitness route with it as they have been doing. I don't know what the volume looks like versus AirPods, but I'm speaking about my life experience out in the street, living life. You're seeing a lot more AirPods than Beats products right now. But it might be different in your region. You let me know down in the comments what you're seeing. I'm not saying it's going to be dead. I'm just saying its significance likely diminished. And this could be the start of it by removing the Beats name. Which I mean, as far as radio station names are concerned, Beats One?
Yeah.
Beats One? I mean, that sounds pretty cool. But so I guess Apple Music One, whatever. Last Apple story of the day. Apparently, Apple worked with the U.S. government on a secret iPod. You love these stories, Will. You put secret in the headline. You love that.
Conspiracy.
I mean, is your interest piqued or what?
It's peaked.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you can thank Mac Rumors for that. Well, this was republished from some comments made on a publication called tidbits.com. Apple worked with the U.S. government on a secret modified iPod, according to a new report by a former Apple software engineer, David Shayer. He says back in 2005, he was asked by the director of iPod software to help two engineers from the U.S. Department of Energy build a special iPod. The engineers were, in fact, contractors from Bechtel, a large U.S. defense contractor. They go in there, they say, we need a little covert device. We need a little, what would it be? A stealth device. So it looks like an iPod, but it's not an iPod. You see, we can get this anywhere we need to go. This can travel in a pocket. This can look like a regular consumer device. It can function like a regular consumer device, but maybe somewhere deep in that menu is this special feature that we're looking for. So it can run as a sensor. It can run as a detector. Now, question is, Will, if you're the Department of Defense and you're doing secretive operations, what type of detector, what type of feature would you need to have hidden inside of an iPod in 2005? Again, keep in mind, this is before the full penetration of smartphones. So an iPod would be a common thing to find in someone's pocket. But what is the secret feature you're going to need?
I don't know. Some sort of like anti-hacking feature?
Go on. Is this in your dreams or is this reality? Where are we right now?
It's definitely in my dreams. I can't dream of anything right now.
You're wrong, Will. You would want to be able to sense nuclear activity.
Sense?
Yeah, that's right. You want to pick it up on your little stealth Geiger counter. That's what you would want to do. Because you may need to go into an area that doesn't want you there. You may need to go run a quick little covert analysis to find out if there might be nuclear weapons in a place.
To detect radiation.
Yeah! That's what you might do.
I mean, I wouldn't suspect that, but it makes sense. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't do it, but they would do it. They spend a bunch of money on this stuff. How about this for a budget? The Department of Energy, responsible for U.S. nuclear weapons and nuclear power programs, and its in its 2005 budget, 24.3 billion, 9 billion of the budget intended to meet defense-related objectives such as nuclear deterrence. I don't know if you recall, you had the whole thing, weapons of mass destruction. You remember that back in the day? And how do you determine whether or not you can what do you call it? Invade a place, I guess. How do you determine where a threat actually lives? A real threat, a nuclear threat. You go in and I guess you get close to where you think those weapons might be, and then you just see if you can pick up the radiation. Well, they're not going to let you in there with some thing that's obviously designed to read for radiation, a Geiger counter. They're not going to let you in with a typical one, so you bury it inside of an iPod and you just peek down at that thing every so often, and everyone knows it as an iPod.
Interesting.
So but the crazy thing about the story is Apple was fully aware of it, obviously, but it was so secretive inside of Apple. Only like 4 people knew about the operation going on, and they sort of worked together to allow this thing to happen. Very interesting. I remember the iPod, by the way, the iPod that they had worked on or changed around was a iPod 5th generation with a 60 gigabyte disc. Remember, it used to have an actual mini little hard drive in there. I believe it was a 1.8 inch disc in there. Did you have one of these?
I had the 2nd generation.
Wait a second. 5th gen.
Is it the 5th gen?
Oh, you're looking at the iPod Touch. 5th gen iPod Touch. We just need...
Well, how do
fifth,
I search for that?
You just need iPod. Type up iPod 5. See what happens. This might do it. How dare you, iPod Touch? So rude.
They took over.
Maybe it had a different name. Was it Classic? It looks more like the Classic. See, it didn't play video, I don't think.
Oh.
But yeah, that's what it looks like. It was this style that you crack open. And I think it was the 5th iPod, but definitely not the 5th generation of iPod Touch. This was prior to that. You had a hard disk inside, 60 gigs of storage, and a much different operating system with a click wheel, and you moved around that way. So I assume their Geiger counter was buried somewhere in the settings menu that anyone who wanted to inspect the thing would likely be unable to find. Samsung is working on a more affordable Galaxy S20. This is a big deal. This is a smart move. It will likely be called the Fan Edition. They haven't done a Fan Edition in a long time. I think since the Note 7, I remember. There was a Fan Edition, or FE. And I don't know what this heading means, Fan Edition. I don't know why it's called Fan Edition. Maybe they don't want to call it budget. Maybe they don't want to call it light. What it really means is it's to appease the enthusiasts who want value for money. It's that group of people who doesn't want to spend the flagship level cash, but wants the core features. And to me, the weird part about the Fan Edition is they're doing this for the fans. They're going to have less of a profit margin and serve the fans. Maybe, because the weird part to me is if you're a real super fan, then you spend the money on the flagship model and you don't sit around and wait for a Fan Edition. But anyways, with the S10, you may recall you had a light model. There was a Galaxy S10 Lite that saved a few bucks. This S20 Fan Edition, what's cool about it, and I don't have a price here. I don't know that there's even speculation on the price currently, but what's cool about it is it keeps an 800 series chip, supposedly. 865, where is it? 865, 855. 865. It will reportedly be powered by a Snapdragon 865 with a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. The screen is rumored to be a 120 hertz refresh rate, and it'll be slightly bigger than the standard S20, but smaller than the S20 Plus. Again, this is all rumors, leaks. We have renders based on this information as well. I don't know where they're going to save the money, because that's a pretty impressive spec list based on those leaks. But maybe they don't spend the money or save the money. Let's see here. The Elect previously reported that Samsung could release it in October for $759 compared to the base price of the S20 at $999. So yeah, it's a little bit of savings there. I don't know where they're skimping. Maybe on the camera, Of course, we would have to wait to find out. You're currently an S20 user yourself, Will.
Mm-hmm.
What are the features that matter to you?
Refresh rate.
Okay.
And the camera. Camera's good. It's
Camera,
solid.
refresh. Now, this one would be slightly bigger than the standard S20. You have a 6.2-inch screen. This goes up to a 6.4. It's not quite as big as the Plus at 6.7. Could you go up a little bit in screen size for a fan edition? Would you? Could you?
I don't think I could.
You couldn't. All right. But what if I were to tell you that you're going to save almost $150 off the price of the regular S20?
Yeah, as a consumer, sure. Price matters quite a lot.
Are you a consumer, Will?
I guess I am.
You are. You are.
$150 is no chump change.
No, it's good. And the spec list actually for $750 looks, if that's the price it ends up coming in at, looks pretty impressive. You get the Samsung brand. You're part of the flagship lineup. The renders look pretty nice. You have the tiny little Infinity O display. Yep. If you have the same display as the S20, that's a nice display. A 4,500 milliamp hour battery, some somewhat decent fast charging, Snapdragon 865 you already want, and then the 120 hertz display. I think you're kind of happy about it. Mm-hmm. Triple camera array. We got to wait to see what actually launches, but that looks pretty promising. Mm-hmm. Step into a flagship-like experience for a couple $100 less.
Yep.
We have a new entrant into the TikTok, I want to buy TikTok sweepstakes. It's a new game show here on CNBC. They don't have game shows, and we're not CNBC.
Yeah. It's like the dating show with the doors.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, the wall.
Yeah, right.
And TikTok's usually it's...
So you don't see the person on the other side of it?
You don't.
You're
you just
dating
ask them
without
really
seeing.
Provocative questions.
Easy. For some reason, my brain just started thinking about a show I used to watch at my grandmother's house where you had a shopping cart and you had to go shopping for groceries and hit a certain amount of money. And the word sweepstakes just made me think of it.
Oh.
It's a shopping, you're in a store, you have a cart. It's probably from the 80s or 90s. It wasn't new when I was watching it at her house as a child. Shoppers.
Was it in the 90s?
Grocery. Supermarket sweep. That's why I was thinking of sweepstakes. Supermarket sweep. She would have this on. Wait a second. 1965. No, it wasn't unless it was a reboot. Unless she was watching a really old show.
Maybe it's a rerun.
Wow, maybe it was. And she was reruns. I don't know. Wow. You want to play a little bit of that real quick, Will? I know we're going off track here. Just give us a little. 94. Give me the 1994. That would have been it. That's a 9-year-old Lou right there. 9-year-old Lou. Yeah, that's it. Wow. Crazy, man. What a time that was. Yeah, on Lifetime. She would have had this on.
Yeah.
Game show in a supermarket. It would be you have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of time to collect the ingredients for a particular thing, and crazy. It was to see how good you were at the supermarket, you know?
Yeah.
And the prices wouldn't be on things. You found out the price later, kind of Price is Right style.
Huh. They're so excited.
Trivia aspect.
So much optimism.
A lot of optimism. 1994. The previous year, the Blue Jays had won the World Series. Pizza was thriving.
The good old days.
Toronto in 1994. Anyway, a little trip down memory lane right there. Somehow we got there on a new story about TikTok.
The dating game?
TikTok, it could go, well, obviously we have the Microsoft. Microsoft has been courting this deal, talking to Trump and the government and whatever else is necessary to potentially acquire TikTok. And now Oracle is in the mix as well. Mm-hmm. And apparently they are leading the charge alongside a couple of other investment firms who I believe are already invested in ByteDance, or at least in the TikTok product, and based in California. And originally when this news started to emerge that TikTok was going to be banned, the very first theory was that the American investors in the company could just assume a greater role. They could just assume a bigger piece of the company and then continue to find a way to operate it. But maybe that's outside of their core competency. They are investment firms after all, and not necessarily enormous tech companies. And there's a lot that goes into running a giant social media platform, something like TikTok. So you may need a tech partnership with a company who has a big cloud business. Oracle has that. So supposedly this new pitch, it's the same as the Microsoft pitch, where it would assume it would acquire TikTok's US, Canadian, Australian, and New Zealand operations, same group, and it would be a partnership between Oracle, probably doing the tech back-end stuff, and Sequoia, and which is the last of those companies? General Atlantic. So they would come in on this deal all together. This would be very strange for Oracle. They have no play at all in this space. They've been in the cloud in a big way, but they've been losing some of their share in the cloud due to some of the progress that's been made by Amazon with the AWS product. Microsoft has their cloud product. Google has their cloud product. It's a busy landscape. They've actually, I think their revenue declined 6% to $10.4 billion in the fourth quarter. So they may be looking for growth opportunities, and who knows? They may be the correct party to get a deal done. They may be capable of satisfying all the weird various aspects that are necessary to satisfy to get this deal done.
Especially when they're a, I guess, server-based company. They can just get TikTok's data into American servers, right?
Yeah, you just plug in the hard drive.
Yeah.
You just plug in one external hard drive, and then you got everything. Like, oh, there it is. Perfect. We're done.
USB-A.
Don't worry about those transfer times. Yeah, pretty much. I guess one of the reasons one of the things you can imagine is that as all these pitches take place and they try to satisfy all the parties involved, there's going to be a lot of consideration around, first of all, is this company even capable of doing this in a reasonable way, in a safe and private way? Can they actually execute this thing? And then also, would they become too powerful if they did do this thing? Which is why you haven't heard as much about companies like Facebook or Google acquiring TikTok, because it probably wouldn't be approved. I'm not saying, I don't know for certain, but they're already getting grilled in Congress for having too much control, ownership over too much data, too big to fail type of conversations. So it was not surprising to me that Microsoft was the one to emerge, because they weren't at those Congress hearings.
Right.
They weren't receiving the same type of grilling. And obviously Oracle wasn't there either. They're still mega powerful companies, mega capable companies. But maybe this pitch ends up being the one that's accepted, because it not only has to be accepted by the seller, but it also has to be accepted by the U.S. government. And who knows what ingredients are necessary to satisfy all those groups. Google has requested FCC authorization to confidentially test 6 gigahertz spectrum across the United States. 6 gigahertz, that sounds exciting, right, Will?
6 gigahertz. That's fast.
That's fast. It just sounds fast. 6 gigahertz, perfect. This is a complicated thing. The way that these bands operate, the FCC, at least in the U.S., has to authorize companies to even be able to operate within certain frequencies, and they open up these various bands at different times. Sometimes there's bidding that takes place. Other times they just open it up in general if anybody can use it. This is apparently going to be great for Wi-Fi, because the current 5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz bands are really crowded. If you've ever you pop open your little Wi-Fi selector in any residential area, any commercial area, you'll see it's crowded. And oftentimes that crowding is responsible for your subpar experience. It's just a lot of stuff happening there. Well, this would open a tremendous amount of bandwidth currently unutilized. And if you were to purchase equipment capable of utilizing it, you would be part of a much smaller group than what currently exists on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. obviously Google wants to be at the forefront of this. And even though they're kind of stating this current experiment as a small-scale fact-finding mission, you have to imagine that at a certain point they would want to turn that into commercialization. They have Wi-Fi products. They care about connectivity. They want you to have a better web experience because, well, you're more likely to be interacting with their products if your web experience happens to be good. Google will make sure that the tech coexists with existing networks and notes how the proposed operations will be less of an interference threat than amateur radio operations. In some cases, the company will avoid outdoor operation. While the specifics are redacted, testing will be sparse in time and location. So they're saying, it's super small scale, leave us alone right now, as you would say if you wanted to make the case that you should be allowed to experiment. Although they've requested permission in 26 different cities, including Atwater, Los Angeles, Menlo Park, San Bruno, that's where YouTube is based, San Diego, San Francisco, San Jose, Phoenix, Boulder, Tampa, Atlanta. Well, there's a whole list of cities that they want to run this experiment. New York is in there as well. And it could have implications for the future of your Wi-Fi equipment and your Wi-Fi connections, Will. Catch yourself a little upgrade, why don't you?
Sounds great. So is there going to be just still 2.4, 5 gigs?
Yeah.
And then the new ones?
Yeah, you'll have to have your backwards compatibility, I presume. But, I'll hop on that.
Yeah.
I guess. But you're going to have some
shot.
people, you're definitely going to have some people saying that they're dying because of it, right? Or
Yeah, we need that iPod Geiger counter.
Yeah, we're going to Geiger it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I don't think those are the same things, Will, but we might as well. We might as well pick up a quick Geiger counter.
Yeah.
Trump dangles cash for U.S. firms moving from China. This is along the lines of a lot of the earlier stories here. We know what Trump's been saying about the China stuff. I mean, he won't stop with it. It turned into a mega political issue. There's an election coming. It's turning into a real sort of, what would you say? I guess it's an opportunity to create or expose a problem, to discuss a problem, and then also say that you're the solution to the problem, and therefore look at all the amazing stuff that you've done. I mean, it's the previous campaign was a lot about job creation, and it's no surprise. Everybody's well aware that many of our goods, not just in the U.S., here in Canada and globally, originate in China, and there's been increasingly this conversation around nations wanting to own more of their manufacturing, make things made in America, for example, made in Canada.
Yeah.
Name a thing that's made in Canada.
Basketball.
There's no economic advantage to the fact that basketball was invented in Canada, though I do like that little tidbit. Right? That's a little tidbit. If I ever heard a tidbit, that's true.
I would
Naismith.
say,
And
I don't know, Timbits?
The Raptors are, I guess, a basketball export. Timbits. Maple syrup, Will.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup.
I knew you were gonna go there. That's why I didn't want to say it.
No, maple syrup, because we're in trouble, man. We're not really exporting all that much. We have obviously energy products that we export, and maple syrup, and obviously this show. Don't forget this show. This is one of Canada's major exports. But anyway, people look. Every nation's trying to create jobs, keep the economy rolling in a terrible time, a rough patch. And so some of the language that Trump's using is around bringing even more jobs to America that have evacuated in recent years. He vowed to create 10 million jobs in 10 months, saying we will end our reliance on China. That's probably harder to do than it is to say. Probably harder to do than say, but that's like a lot of things in life. Harder to do than say. We will create tax credits for companies that bring jobs from China back to America. We built the greatest economy in the history of the world, and now I have to do it again. Him personally. He's going to be there screwing in the drywall, hammering just to build the facility. Then he's also going to be on the assembly line when the smartphones are back.
Of course.
And he did go visit that Texas plant where they were building Mac Pros in Austin, where Apple was building Mac Pros, one of the few products they assemble in the United States. It appears to be harder to do than many might imagine. There's the famous Wisconsin story.
Yeah, with Foxconn.
With Foxconn, where there doesn't appear to be much happening there. So I don't know how plausible this is, but he is effectively on the record here stating that there will be tax breaks and incentives for companies that are willing to do this. There's not a tremendous amount of detail right now, but we've seen how this worked in India. Now, obviously, India, a much different economy than the United States, but you have to presume that it could have some sort of an impact, and it may entice companies. I think he would love to entice the Taiwanese companies. He would love to entice all the cons.
Yeah.
Get a few cons over here. And I'll take any con. And I'll give you this tax break real quick. The India version of it, I believe they were giving between 4 and 6% back for any revenue generated from companies that were willing to move their operations there. So everyone's competing, Will, for the manufacturing. Everybody wants this manufacturing now. Manufacturing comes with jobs, and people want jobs. So U.S. included. Speaking of the India piece, Asia's richest man, Mukesh Ambani, he is on a shopping spree now. So we talked a lot about him selling things, selling percentages, stakes in his various companies, Reliance, Jio. I think this says here, Jio is now, what did they sell? Like 22% of the company or something? Should I get this right? Selling a combined 33% stake in Jio platforms. So you got Google, Facebook. It's been a sales spree, and now it's a shopping spree. You take that money. Here's what you do. Well, let me explain it to you. Explain some business to you. Okay. Opportunity in India right now, because things are still relatively cheap in India. You can turn around, take those billions of dollars, purchase a bunch of millions of dollars. You see how that goes? You break up those billions into little sections that are millions. And then you go around and you see who all your competitors are in all the various marketplaces. I mean, with him now, he's talking pharmaceuticals. He's talking, let me just read a few. I mean, it's so vast and wow. Let me. Can I? Do you mind? I can read a few. A lingerie company, an online furniture company. Do you see how this works, Will? You take the billions you get in investment from the West, and then you buy local companies that are thriving or at that cusp, at that early stage. Now you attempt to take those companies to the next level through your purchasing, because you can plug them into all your networks for growth. But you just took your billions and you bought for millions.
Yeah.
That's the part I like. 33 billion can buy you a ton of $100 million companies.
Yeah.
Expand your network.
Oh, yeah.
So whenever you're ready, Will, you just let me know. We'll do the same thing.
All right, for sure.
We'll sell for billions and buy for millions. The 63-year-old tycoon is seeking to widen his retail footprint in a market that's become a hotspot for global giants such as Amazon, as well as the local rivals, all chasing 1 billion-plus consumers. The business mogul last month outlined plans to rope in investors for his Reliance Retail Limited days after selling a combined 33% stake in Jio platforms. They're going to pay $160 million for Zivam, which is a furniture company. Oh no, Zivam is the pharmaceutical company, I think. Oh no, NetMeds is the pharmaceutical company. That's $120 million. What does Zivam do? They're the lingerie company. So $160 for the lingerie company, $120 for the pharmaceutical company, and $30 million for the furniture company. You're gonna have a play everywhere. I mean, this dude really he's gonna be the Bezos. He already maybe is the Bezos. He wants to be the everything guy. And as far as India is concerned, he's really starting to look like the everything guy. Because he's taking billions and buying for millions.
Yeah. Just the fact that it calls it a shopping spree is like he's buying companies, whereas us, we're just buying groceries.
Right. Right. You mean when you go on a shopping spree?
Yeah.
You mean when you watch Supermarket Sweep?
Yeah.
The show from earlier. That's a shopping spree. You go in, you splurge on the premium. What would be a premium splurge for you? Where you would step up to the next level. You'd be like, you know what? Today, I'm going to get the more expensive barbecue sauce.
Yes. Or, chocolate would be the one.
Chocolate would be the one. I had some great chocolate the other day. I would also do the same thing in exchange for the right chocolate. company that's doing well in the U.S. and presumably Canada, Home Depot. Quarterly sales soar 23% as consumers take on more DIY projects because of the lockdown. Can you see it, Will? Can you imagine? Because I seen the Home Depot, and even during early days lockdown, the parking lot, people could only do the pickup, and they were all doing it. Contractors as well as homeowners. It seemed that was a segment that never really shut down. People were trapped at home. I remember super early days, they were saying, oh, we're going to clean up the house. Oh, I'm going to clean out the closet. And all of a sudden you saw the garbage piles on people on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Then it had to advance past there because you're trapped at home. I got to improve something. Maybe I got to paint a room. Maybe I got to build a deck. You see?
Renovation was high, and it still is, right? People are still working on their homes.
Home Depot's profit surged 25% to $4.33 billion or $4 per share during the fiscal second quarter. Coronavirus pandemic boosted sales. Company spent $480 million on additional compensation for its employees because those people were all working extra to deal with the demand. I'm sure they have the online operation as well, people ordering for delivery or store pickup. But you know what this is, Will? Let me tell you something. Let me explain something to you. Wow, actually scroll down to the graph just before I do that. It's a big improvement. They were kind of falling off, and then kablamo. That's a pretty big elevation there on that graph. I know you like graphs, Willie do. Anyways, we talked about this before, and this is the optimistic side. This is the half empty glass versus the half full glass. Something happens that affects some group negatively, and sure enough, there's some beneficiary on the optimistic side. They were going one direction, moving downwards, and then this thing happens, and hey, we're ready to go. You want to fix your house now? You want to fix your house now? They were on TV with all the commercials. You want to fix your house? You ready to fix your house yet? Then this thing happens. It's like, now you're ready to fix your house.
No.
Perfect. We're ready to go too.
It's like, you got me.
We're ready to go too. So anyways, that's a little upside there. Xbox boss Phil Spencer says, we don't care if the PS5 sells more. First off, I don't believe you. You have to care. It's kind of your business. But I do kind of believe you because Xbox, as he goes on to state in this particular podcast, he did an interview, Xbox has been investing a lot of time, Microsoft specifically, in other partnerships and other projects, including their cloud-based gaming project. And they may not just be in it for the hardware sales, even though I do believe you have to care a little bit. As people pick these platforms, they tend to stick to them. Current estimates are suggesting that the PlayStation could ship between 120 million to 170 million units, which could be double what the Series X ends up shipping. So it appears, and again, this is speculation, but it appears the PS5 has a little bit more juice at the moment. But that said, he goes on to say, look, we got a lot of stuff going on. He says, how many consoles do I sell versus how many consoles does another company sell? Sony or Nintendo or other companies back in the day, that's not our approach. He's basically saying, even without Xbox Series X exclusives, they're happy to be working on their xCloud game streaming service that counts smartphones among its compatible platforms. You saw the deal that they made with Samsung to include the little clip unit and the controller unit that they're pushing for. He says, if I only cared about console sales, why would I make the titles available on mobile? If I only cared about console sales, why would I make the titles available on PC? Well, PC, you got Microsoft on the PC. And on mobile, you got the Android partnership now on the Surface products. So they are not as locked into that one thing, maybe in the same way that Sony is with the PlayStation brand. So I kind of hear what he's saying, but he definitely cares about people buying the Xbox. You spend a lot of time building the Xbox, making the Xbox. And we could be in a different boat right now if that Halo thing had worked out a little bit better.
Right.
But a recent survey actually asking what customers were most likely to buy saw 84% of gamers pick Sony's product over the Xbox product. 84% that's a big discrepancy right there. We'll see how it all shakes out. But I hear him. I hear him on some of that. The cloud gaming is interesting. How fast is SpaceX's satellite internet? We now have a beta test. Now, it was really optimistic early days, and some of the language coming out of Elon talking about a gigabit. Now, you had to know that was kind of extreme. You had to know, hey, man, gigabit from space? I don't know. Well, anyway, they got a couple speed tests popped up on Ookla's speed test website. They're the guys when it comes to speed tests. I probably ran 1,000 speed tests, these guys. Yes. Maybe more. Maybe 10,000 in my years. Yeah. Anyways, the numbers didn't shake out that well. It was from 11 megabits per second to 60 megabits per second. Upload speeds were lower than download speeds. The tests took place in Los Angeles, California, and Seattle, Washington. And PC Mag reached out to Ookla to see if these were authentic tests, to which they said yes. They believe that these are authentic. SpaceX has currently only launched 600 satellites. So, of course, they intend on expanding that. And they're not publicly stating these figures. They're still working on it. So, not to say that these can't improve, but I'm saying 60 megabits down on satellite. I've been in spotty locations. I've been in rural locations. You can have some nasty slow internet. So, if we're up in space, Will, and I can catch 60, I'm still interested.
Yeah, you can definitely stream Netflix.
I was up there in cottage country, man. I was dying. I had nothing. Maybe I should have had nothing. Maybe I wanted to have nothing.
Yeah.
But if I had to live up there and do the Zooms and all the rest of it,
it's tough.
I'd be saying I need a little bit more connectivity. And of course, space and satellites could allow for that. So even though it's not the gigabit yet, and hopefully they can get closer to that, 60 is not nothing for some people in some regions. I'll tell you what, globally.
Yes.
So shout out to space-based internet, even if it comes with the pollution. What was it? The astronomy photographers.
Yeah.
We're not happy about the satellites. They got to put the shades on it. We talked about it. We've got a clip. Go look for the clip. I explained. Speaking of Elon, we got a software update, or multiple software updates maybe, for the Model S. Performance improvements, Will, to come and meet the high criteria that's been set by the new Taycan, pushing some crazy numbers, even though on paper they were really conservative. And then they took it out on a track, and all of a sudden 2.4 seconds on the launches, and 0 to 100 and track times. And Elon rushed over there. He sent a plaid model car over to Germany. He says, let me see what I can do. And then they start tweaking the software. And it's kind of amazing that you can drastically change the performance of a vehicle through nothing but a few lines of code there, Willie do.
Right.
And it's a real advantage that Tesla has. So they went in there, they tweaked, they tinkered, as you would if you were Tesla and you were playing around with a couple lines of code. And they were able to actually pretty significantly improve the performance of that particular car. Car and Driver went ahead and they retested the Model S since this new update, and it now matches the Taycan's 0 to 60 mile per hour time at 2.4 seconds on their test, Car and Driver test, which makes sure that the conditions are similar and all the rest of it. The update also shaves a whopping average of 2 seconds off the Model S times for short run and quarter mile pass. Most importantly, the publication did 15 consecutive runs to learn that consistency and endurance have also improved drastically. So what can I say, Will? This is the future of cars. You just unlock. Oh, that's also terrifying. I'm picturing freemium games right now where you have to unlock all the various features in the game by paying money. Imagine we get to a point where in order to unlock the next performance level for your car, you have to send a payment. And then every time you get into your car, it reminds you that you haven't done that upgrade yet.
Yeah.
And it says,
this is what you're missing out.
Yes. Or it'll even give you a sample run. It'll say, want to experience?
Have a taster.
Want to have a taster of level 2 performance? Today's on us. And then you drive around for a day on level 2 performance, and you lose it the next day. It's kind of Black Mirror-ish. So it's equally terrifying, but also incredibly convenient. Imagine the performance improvements coming over the air. It's really cool. I have a funny clip here from Tesla Sentry mode. This is the mode. It's capturing the exterior cameras whenever anything funky happens to your Tesla. Someone bangs into it. Someone tries to break into your car. Someone scratches, dents your vehicle, maybe while it's charging, something like this. So you end up with some funny clips. Here we have Tesla Cam Stories, episode 14. This is a bizarre interaction, which I know you want to watch. I have watched it in advance. I had to make sure it was safe.
Yeah.
Safe for consumption. Now, you have a biker here, and there you go, Will. That's your clip. Now, this is a compilation of Sentry clips. It comes to us via a YouTube channel by the name of what? By the name of Wham Bam Tesla Cam. How about that for an entire channel? And I want you to just roll it back one more time, Will, because we gotta catch a glimpse at the thumbnail image, which of course tells the story for the most part. We have, at first I believe it's a skateboarder flying through there. Okay, there, pause. Okay, so you had a skateboarder, and the skateboarder was focused. And the skateboarder was a longboard. They were just gliding along, real summer style.
Yeah.
And we got to take it slow here because there's a lot going on. It's more than you originally thought. There's the skateboarder. You paused it. Now, the skateboarder's looking ahead, right? Watching the direction they're going. So that's not a problem. But now I want you to keep your eye on the biker who comes up next. I apologize, a cyclist. She is not, pause it right here. She's not paying attention, Will. And can you tell the people how you know that she's not paying attention?
Well, she's looking on her phone.
Yes, she's looking at her phone while she's riding a bike, which is not advisable. That's not an advisable activity. And just as she goes to put the phone down, she somehow, maybe she misjudged her distance from this vehicle.
Oh,
and
she's leaning.
She starts to lean, and then tragedy strikes as she exits the bike completely and slams into this person's Tesla. Although it looks like she sort of saves the car ever so slightly because the bike kind of travels in the direction away from the car.
Right, yeah.
But she knows she's going to hit the ground at least, as she does here. And in a second. And if you continue forward just a little bit more, I think you actually can see her. Yeah, go a little forward on the video there, Will, past this part. I feel like I saw her sitting beside trying to recover.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a preview. It's a funny preview. You got to go to
okay, here
the
we go.
33-second mark.
There we go.
Yeah. And then you'll see she's sitting for a while kind of beside the Sentry camera of the Tesla. You see she's trying to recover. And I don't know if it's pain or if it's laughing going on here. Probably a little bit of both. It's kind of funny that you crashed, but also maybe you got a scrape or two. And then you're laughing because your friends are looking back at you like, you idiot, were you looking at your phone again?
Yeah.
And this is all the type of thing that happens when you're distracted.
Like, Sarah, not again.
Not again.
Come on.
We're just going for a stroll here. Can you enjoy the environment? Can you enjoy the smooth breeze? What are you looking at on your phone? Well, now she can look at herself on the phone as she goes viral on this particular clip. I don't know how many views this has, but those Sentry cams pick up some funny things, man. Hence the need for an entire channel. Wham Bam Tesla Cam for all your favorite Sentry clips. You can go have a laugh. Speaking of high performance vehicles, Ram is putting out the most unbelievable pickup truck. It's going to be powered by the Hellcat engine. This is the thing they've been putting in those Challengers, Chargers. What else they put it? I believe they even put it into one of the Jeeps. But this thing it's bananas. It's over 700 horsepower. And they claim that this vehicle is going to do 100 miles an hour on any surface. Well, it doesn't matter. Go taking the desert. This thing's a beast.
Yeah.
And what they want to do is destroy the Ford Raptor with this car. They want to finally have a kind of performance pickup truck on par or better. And it's certainly more powerful than the Raptor, but it's going to cost you, Will. It's going to cost you at least $71,690. And of course, you can spec it out. Beyond that, they had to make all kinds of modifications to the regular Ram body to fit this enormous engine in there. Now, they had to also take off a little bit of power from what the Hellcat has in other implementations in other vehicles. So it normally makes 707 horsepower. The Hellcat inside of this particular truck is 702. So it's not, you're losing about 5 horsepower, but I think you got plenty of horsepower, Will. And the reason they had to drop the 5 horsepower is due to a higher intake to accommodate the truck's 32-inch water fording tolerance. So obviously this has to go off-road, so you have different tolerances than you would on a car, a performance car, something like that. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, which, I mean, if you're looking at Teslas or Taycans, it doesn't sound that. But this is heavy. This is a truck, Will. 4.5
Very
seconds,
impressive.
0 to 60, 0 to 100 miles per hour in 10.5 seconds. You can run a quarter mile in 12.9 seconds at a top speed of 118 miles per hour. This is a pretty wild truck, if that's what you're looking for. A lot of people have been waiting for this for a long time, feeling like Ram didn't have a real competitor to the Ford Raptor. I see you squinting at that image there.
Yeah, is this like a
Racetrack.
Racetrack?
Yeah,
It is?
racetrack with a little bit of an angle to that outside lane there. But yeah, the people are into trucks. Trucks are hot right now, and as everyone sits around waiting for those electric performance trucks to hit the market, Ram's got you covered in the form of this TRX right here, Ram 1500 TRX. It also looks pretty wild.
It does, yeah.
So
I was just going to say.
this, in the meantime, Will, you can pick up one of these and hit the trail running.
Very cool.
702 horsepower. Oh, the interior as well, if you scroll down a little bit, the interior is really nice. They've been doing some great interiors on the recent Ram models for tech with a huge display in the center of the unit. This one also has a flat bottom steering wheel, which tells you performance. And it looks like a little Alcantara maybe as well.
Oh, yeah.
And the seats, if you scroll down just a little further, the seats actually have a bunch of extra bolstering because you're shaking around with all the extra performance. So they're going to squeeze you in there just a touch. And go back just one picture just to show off that enormous display in the center of the dash. It's all pretty cool. I think you'd agree. You can take this thing Baja mode, take it on the snow, Will. I can tell you're very excited.
Very fun.
We're going to skip the next one because it's a paywall. So go two forward.
Well,
Panasonic.
okay.
You didn't get paywalled. Okay, fine.
I got one more article left.
Because I read this story this
Apparently.
morning on Bloomberg. You know what? We'll just pay for the Bloomberg thing for this show. But anyways, I read this story this morning about how GM is potentially just going to do an electric vehicle spinoff instead of having everything fall under the GM umbrella. And investors, they like that. They said, you know what? That's exciting because all the hype in the automotive sector seems to be around EVs. But the problem is you have these mega brands that still sell and market traditional fossil fuel vehicles. And so, you know, it's tough to make the case to the customer that something different is really happening and to get that hype train rolling. Well, for the customer and also for the investor. The investor has to be on the hype train as well. And so we recently talked on this show about how Hyundai was going to do a whole new brand. I can't remember the name of it now. Ionic or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously,
The
they
three
didn't.
cars.
Obviously, they didn't do a good job with the brand there because I've already forgotten it. But it's not out yet, so give me a break on that. Electric spin-off. Spin-off brand by the name of Ionic. Did I say Ionic?
Yes, you did. You
Wow.
You're right.
I have a few. I'm not
You're not old?
as depleted as I thought I was. I actually remember the brand name. Anyways, so yeah, this is one way that you can signal a real investment. GM supposedly working on 20-something electric vehicles. They're fully on board. It's crazy because they had an electric vehicle before anyone else. You can see Who Killed the Electric Car. It's a documentary about how super early they had an electric vehicle and they just squashed it. Actually, literally squashed them. All the leases. Anyways, that was GM, right? That wasn't Ford? I think it was
I
GM.
believe it was GM.
Anyways, it might have been Ford. Who killed the electric car? The point being is, when you go out and do a dedicated electric vehicle brand, you have all kinds of new marketing opportunities. It was General Motors. It was called the EV1 in the mid 90s. Crazy. They had a fully functioning electric vehicle in the mid 90s. People liked it and they squashed it. Go check that. That's a good document. Did you watch that documentary?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago. I don't really remember.
It was a good documentary. But anyway, so this is just a rumor for the moment, and obviously there's products in the pipeline already that are going to fall under the General Motors brand or sub-brands like Hummer. They're working on that EV. So this may take a little time to make this transition, but I think it could be a good move. People have a certain impression of what GM represents, and it has an archaic kind of, potentially archaic. It's funny about brands and the persistence of brands.
Right.
You can have comfort in a brand because it's been around for so long, or a brand can seem old because it's been around for so long. So in GM's case, I think you come with a whole new brand name and set of products. I think it could be interesting. And that's what the rumor suggests here. And so Wall Street and investors are responding that could be a good thing or a big thing. And of course, you can still utilize all the backbone of GM, the brand, which gives you a huge leg up. You have a dealership footprint, you have manufacturing footprint, and all of that. So we'll see what takes place. But they're mulling over it, supposedly. How about this? Panasonic put out a home cubicle. You can put this in your home, Will, because you miss the office so much.
Oh.
Because you're at home, because lockdown, you don't get to go into the office, but you had a cubicle at the office.
Yeah.
And it made you feel cozy, like a work zone. Then you were at home and you're like, where do I work? And people have tried the desks. The desks are out there. But then there's the overflow with the desk.
Yeah.
It goes out, it hits the coffee table, and it hits the kitchen table, and it hits the dining room, whatever you got.
Yeah.
It hits the bathroom all of a sudden near the sink. All of a sudden you see some paperwork, some photocopies, a fax machine. I don't have this problem, but some people might.
Yeah.
And The Verge says it's disheartening, a disheartening glimpse at our work from home future. I don't know if it's necessarily disheartening. I think I look at it a bit different.
Yeah.
I think you might be in a tight space and it can actually help you stay organized.
Also, I would say like the mindset of having like a workspace, like your mentality goes to like, okay, this is where I work now.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, and the way they've made it, it's out of wood. I don't think it's the ugliest thing ever. No. If you scroll down, you'll see on the outside, it's kind of a pegboard so you can stay organized. And I don't have this problem. I have like an office. You can have an office space too. And obviously that would be, if someone would prefer that, but not everyone has that space. People, particularly in cities, you got a smaller space to work with. So it can be really hard to set up a designated workspace. Of course, this product targeted at Japan, famously, there's some small spaces in some of those very densely populated cities. It's funny that it's being made by Panasonic, an electronics company, but they do sell, you can see one of the tough book laptops there. Yeah. They're trying to, I don't know, alleviate some of the problems with working at home, letting you have 10 square feet, which
Good
is 1 square meter of a specific work zone.
Yeah.
The product is called the Komoru, which sounds very inviting.
Yes.
It's got all kinds of wood on it. And depending on the individual that's looking at this, you may think this is depressing or you may think this is exactly what you need. I don't know, but you can't get it yet or you can't get it now. It's going to be marketed only in Japan for the time being. But you can imagine maybe IKEA could put something like this out. It'll be interesting to see how people manage their work from home future because it appears hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people could be working from home for a while into the foreseeable future. This one I got this one for you, Will. Yeah. And I just want you to do to people a favor and just read that headline.
Study confirms that painting eyes on cow butts helps ward off predators.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, right? You wouldn't have thought of that.
No.
Maybe you would have. Maybe this is in your dreams that then became reality.
I mean, it's possible. Yeah.
This was based on a technique that you see in nature. You ever seen one of those butterflies? It looks like eyes. Mm-hmm. There's one way in which it's a defense mechanism that evolved over who knows how long to ward off predators. They think the thing is much bigger and more intimidating than it actually is. Sometimes when a peacock spreads the thing out, it looks huge. Look at that. It looks like eyes on the butterfly. Anyway, cows just have regular eyes. A cow doesn't have any really strong defense mechanism other than the fact that it's big, but it's not big enough to fend off a lion. And so you have this livestock in, I believe, Botswana, and they're getting picked off by lions, man, and other predators. Maybe even got hyenas. I don't know. And these cows aren't cheap. This is your family business over here. This is your well-being, taking care of these handful of cows that you got. So you lose one of these, it's a really big deal. So you take matters into your own hands. You try to kill off these lions. Well, now you're killing off all the lions. They just want to catch a meal. It's a big mess. So what happens? Human ingenuity. They look at the butterflies. They say, wait a sec. What if they observed the way that these lions were hunting, and you notice that a lion is a stealth predator, right? It doesn't want to be spotted. It attacks when it doesn't think it's being spotted, and then it pounces. You ever seen the famous lion? He's down there in the grasslands.
Yes.
The savannah. I don't know. There's a famous picture where they're barely peeking out and they're waiting for the prey to not see them, and then they go. Because they're trying to preserve their energy as well, right? It's hot out there. They're trying to be efficient. That's the famous in the grasslands, okay? Look at that, all right? You're just going for a stroll, you and little Otis. You spot that? Let me tell you, you don't have a chance.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, you're cooked. As soon as you see it, you're already cooked.
Yeah, I probably won't see it.
No, I mean,
it gets me.
No, I mean, not where we're located.
It's over.
Not where we're, you wouldn't even see. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you and Otis do take a trip.
Just looking at the clouds.
Right. You just get yourself comfortable with the fact that it's over.
Yeah.
No struggle. No, I don't know. You maybe not. Maybe Otis would surprise you. He'd pull some fancy tricks. He's a feisty one. And all of a sudden he saves your life.
Yeah.
But anyway, this project here, they decided to be inspired by nature after observing nature, and they started to paint stencil on actual eyes to the butt of these cattle, and they ended up extracting data, and after a period of time having done this, noticing a real drop-off in the number of cows that were being attacked and killed by predators because of this technique. And they had a couple that were still killed during the period. However, the 3 cows that were killed during the period, none of them had the painted eyes. All the painted cows survived. Is that incredible? It was applied with foam stencils in the shapes of the inner and the outer eye, and the colors were chosen because of highly contrasting and aposematic features common in natural anti-predator signaling settings. Amazing.
That
Amazing.
looks like a tiger eye.
It kind of looks like a tiger eye. I don't want to attack that. And I was thinking, once it's on the butt of the cow and the cow moves the tail a little bit, it kind of looks like an elephant.
Yes.
At least on that grayish looking cow. And a lion knows an elephant can be a problem. Even though this is much smaller than an elephant, even an elephant can be a problem. But either way, point being, they don't know it. It feels weird and foreign, and they feel like they're being looked at. And therefore, they don't have the advantage they would normally want when approaching the prey. Let's see the actual numbers here. Let's see the actual number. Local farmers killed a pair of lionesses in retaliation for preying on their herds of cattle. The African lion population has dropped significantly from more than 100,000 in the 90s to somewhere between 23,000 and 39,000 in 2016. So a lot of the killing of lions is the retaliation stuff. They say, we don't want to keep killing these lions. We just want them to stop attacking. That's how you come up with it in the first place. So they painted the eyes on 1/3 of a herd of 62 cattle and took the head count. And that's how they figured out the effectiveness eventually. And then they increased that. Over the course of the 4-year study, 15 out of 835 unpainted and only 4 out of the cross-painted cattle were killed by lions. And none of the 683 cattle with the painted eyes were killed. So now I'm just painting all my cattle.
Yeah, well, you should.
I'm just saying to
It's
myself,
a very smart move.
I'm saying I appreciate this cattle. I want to preserve this cattle. This cattle right here is has tremendous value. And all I have to do to achieve this is a quick little paint job.
There you go.
A quick little stencil. Is it non-toxic enamel?
It should be, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I would assume you find a way to do it. And I guess the lions find another meal, right? They go back to the grassland. They look for a gazelle. And they say, you know what? That gazelle got nothing painted on its butt. So I'm going to spend my time here.
There you go.